Are you tired of having to set up your Python coding environment every time you want to create a new coding or data science project? Well, what if there's a better way for you to do this right inside the browser? And all that you need is an access to the internet. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how you could use Google Colab to do that. And this will unlock a lot of possibilities. You'll be able to spin up a coding project or a data science project very easily with a click of a button. And yeah, let's have a look and let's dive in. So the first thing that you want to do is head over to colab.research.google.com. And this will take you to the Welcome to Colab page that you have here. You'll see here on the go that it's providing you with instruction on how to access Google's LLM model called Gemini. It tells you the step-by-step in order to do so as well. So here it summarizes Google Colab as kind of like a coding environment that allows you to write and execute Python right inside the browser. So if you are already familiar with Jupyter Notebooks, same thing, but then on Google Cloud, and it's hosted there. And great thing is that you'll be able to access this for free. Do note that there are also paid options for you if you need more compute power or compute time. A great thing about the Google Colab is that you could get up and running fairly quickly in a few seconds, and you'll also be able to share the resulting notebook to your peers and colleagues. So here you'll immediately notice that there's option to include text in your notebook and also the coding aspect in your notebook as well. And you'll notice that this text is stylized by Markdown, which is a syntax that allows you to do, enter text in here, allows you to stylize it as a bold or italic, or also allow you to add links to your notebook. And so the coding cell here, is showing an example of creating a matplotlib chart. And so why don't I show you how I would use Google Colab, and let's have a look. So to spin up a new notebook, you'll click on the File tab menu here, click on New Notebook in Drive, and then it'll spin up a new notebook for you. So under the hood is actually a compute that is spinning up for your use case. So here we're connecting to a remote computer, and for the name of the file, it's actually being stored on your Google Drive. So great thing is after your coding session, you'll always have access to your code. So even if you close your browser and if the notebook has saved your code, it should be safe in your Google Drive. And then you could access that on another computer, which might be handy when you're on the go, if you're using your phone or if you're using your tablet or if you're using your work laptop, right? And then when you go home, you have your desktop, or if you go to the office, you have your desktop, which will allow you to access the same version if you're using the same Google account. All right, so let's give it a name. I'll just call it my first notebook. And here you have the option to create a code cell or a text cell. So by default, it gives you a coding cell here. So let's click on text, and here you're gonna see the text cell. It gives you the option to stylize your markdown text. So here, if we click once, you'll be able to see the heading with one hash symbol, which signifies heading 1. So if I want to run this, I'll just, hit on Shift Enter, and then this will run, and then you'll see that it is not in the editing mode, it is now in the view mode. If I click on another text cell, and then let's have 2 heading here, let's run, or you could care the same as hitting Shift and Enter at the same time. And if you click on the table of contents, you'll be able to see the new section here. Let me give it a name. How about I'll call it My First Notebook. Let's delete that. And then you'll see that My First Notebook here is the first item on the table of contents. You'll notice that the new section here is a sub of the My First Notebook. So why don't I create a new one called examples. All right, and new section here will be H2 with the two hash symbol. Sorry, 2 hash symbol here will signify that it is a H2 heading. And if you have one hash symbol, it is a H1 heading. So what does H1, H2 mean? It means that heading at level 1, subheading at level 2, right? So new section here will belong under examples section. If you add another to be with triple hash symbols, then this will be H3. We'll call it like, to make it easy for you, H2. There you go. So you have one hash, 2 hash, 3 hash, and then it'll be displayed hierarchically like that. Let me create another section, call it examples. All right, and so in our first example, let's have a look at using pandas. So by default, pandas is already pre-installed in your notebook. So in order to verify that, let's do import pandas as PD, and then we'll hit enter. All right, so it is able to run without an issue. Let's have a look at what if you want to install other Python libraries that might not be in the notebook. What do you do? Okay, so to do that, let me go to this. I think it's YTDLP, which is a YouTube video downloader. So let's go to the official GitHub repo as well. But before that, let's make note of this. Let's copy it. Okay. So it's actually a lot of code in here. So in order to make it quicker, let me go to a prior notebook that I've created using Assembly AI as the example. So in this video, we pretty much downloaded a YouTube video. All right, and so YTDLP is the name, right? So you'll notice here that to use the library, it is called YT_DLP. But then to install it, it is YT-DLP. Okay, so note that it's slightly different in spelling. So we want to install it first. So let's skip Pandas example here for a moment. I'll go back to it in a short while. We're adding YT-DLP. Notice that after we hit on the Shift Enter for the text cell, a new coding cell is created automatically, which is quite helpful because we want to type in code now. So we want to pip install the YT. Oh, and it pretty much detects that we want to do so as well. So let's run it, either Shift Enter or hit on the play button here. And so, yeah, you notice that when you're running this, we have this status here on the RAM and the disk hard drive consumption. So you'll notice that we have access to a Python 3 environment with almost 13 gigabytes of RAM and more than 100 gigabytes of storage for running your notebook. So you could even run a pretty powerful workflow using your mobile device as well. Now that we have YTDLP installed, let's have a look at some of the code here. We'll copy this code block and then paste it in here. Then we'll run it. It runs successfully in 1 second. And let's copy the URL here, pasted, then run the function here, and it's suggesting us to do this following. I'll just hit on tab, and then I'll run it, Shift Enter, or just click on the play button. You'll see that the file is being downloaded from YouTube, which is the video on Steve Jobs' 2005 Stanford commencement address. So it's being downloaded, so it's still loading. Give it a short moment. In the meantime, we'll go here to the files, and it's downloading. So you'll see the files are being created here. Reload. Okay, so without even reloading, it updates in a short moment. So the intermediate file was deleted, and then the final file was here. If you click rename, you'll be able to see I'll use the arrow key, and then you'll be able to see the full name right there. So we've downloaded the MP3 file, which is the audio of the video here. Alrighty, so this workflow runs correctly for the YTDLP Python library. Now let's run pandas. So you'll notice here in the file section, we have a sample data folder. And if you click here, we'll be able to see that there's several CSV datasets in here for you to play around with. Let's load in a CSV file. So we want to type in PD. Let's do that before. Let's type in df because we want to assign it to a df variable. And yes, that's essentially what we're going to do, pd.read.csv. So if you see the suggestion and if you want to run the same code, you could just hit on tab and then it'll autocomplete for you. All right, and then we'll just have to rename the CSV name. So it is in the sample data folder, type in sample data / and then it's suggesting, okay, let's use the housing set, tab, enter. I'll type in df so that we could, see the resulting data frame. And then I'll use head command so that we see the first few lines of the data frame. So this is our data frame. And let me show you another feature, which is pretty neat, which is kind of like a IDE, integrated development environment that you might use, like PyCharm. Or if you are a R user, you might be familiar with RStudio, which has the ability to show you the variables that is currently in memory. So you see here that we have the URL variable in memory, which was created just a moment ago, and we have the df variable in memory. So the shape of the URL variable is 43 characters in length, and the shape of the df variable is that it is a tuple of the values 3000 and the second value is 9. So what are those values? Let's have a look. If you type in df.shape, you'll be able to see the same values, which is essentially 3000 rows and 9 columns. So the 9 columns are here, longitude, latitude, housing, median, age, etc. until the last column. So this is using Pandas in here. What about, how about a machine learning library, scikit-learn? So let's click on the getting started. Or actually just go to classification example. Is there a random forest example? Yes. Click on this. So I'm currently under the examples heading here. So I'll add a new H2 heading. I'll call it scikit-learn. Enter, and then I'll paste the code. So we're generating a data set, and then we're assigning it to the X and Y variables. Then we're creating a classifier using the scikit-learn. Here we're using the gradient boosting classifier, and then we're specifying the number of estimators to be 100 and the learning rate to be 1.0. Also the max step to be 1, and then we're using the random state of 0. And then we're creating a model by using the fit command, and then as input we're using X and Y variables. X is the independent variable, Y is the dependent variable, and we're training a classifier which can then be used to make a prediction. But in this specific example, we're actually displaying the feature importance, meaning that for the 9 variables that, no, not that data set, but then for the variables here in this particular demo example, which of the variable are influencing the model the most, meaning which are the important features for making predictions of the Y variable. Okay, so this is an example for the scikit-learn. A pointing note here is that you'll see that scikit-learn is already pre-installed in the notebook. So you'll see also that Google Colab allows you to be up and running using Colab to import, typically used libraries like NumPy, Pandas, scikit-learn. Also Altair for data visualization. So do note here that, sometimes when you want to use a Python library and to install that library, it might have a different name, right? So if you're doing this locally, you might be confused on the naming part. As I already mentioned on like the YTDLP library, you'll notice that to use it, you'll have the underscore version, but then to install it, you'll have to use the dash version. Scikit-learn is quite similar, where when you want to use the library, it's called sklearn. However, if you want to install it, you'll use pip install and then scikit-learn like that. Okay. So if you want to update a particular library, you could also do so by adding this update parameter here. Just a pointing note, or if you want to use other like nightly versions of Python libraries, which are typically available. So you're always using the cutting edge libraries, but be aware that there might be bugs in the newest library version because it might not have been tested. So let's see if we want to create some Altair. Let's create some data visualization. Here, Altair is one of my favorite. Let's create a heat map. So you copy the code here, go back to the notebook. I'll create a new section here. Hover to the section, the area where you want to create the new section. Click on text, and then it'll add say Altair. Shift Enter. Do note that if you want to move your cell up or down, you could just do so by hovering on the cell and then clicking up or down. Okay, so this will allow you the flexibility to move specific sections up or down in your notebook, and this will be reflected in the table of contents as well. Paste the code, Shift Enter to run, or hit on the play button, and then we have the heat map. Here, let's have a look at the stacked area charts. Let's do the same, copy, and then we'll paste it here. All right, there you go. So it's here, and you could also add description of the chart. This is the heat map. Add text, descriptive, right? Here's how to create a heat map. And if you'd like to add a section to it, or just make it bold, you could do it like as well. You could bold, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a section. However, if you want to make it a section, let's see, this is H2. You can make map H3. So let's do that. You could have 1, 2, 3, and then heat map. You can add a 3, and then you call it stacked. Enter. Okay, now before I saw it was underneath, but it hasn't updated, but now it's working properly. Altair, learn, For this one, you could have other examples underneath this as well by just adding H3 headings in there. You'll see how easy it is to, go through the documentation of the libraries that you want to use and then copy pasting it into your notebook, and then you can modify it to your own, preference here. Let's have a look at other features in the notebook. So what if we want to install a library or a package that is not pip install, with pip install, it allows you to install Python libraries, but what if you need packages from the operating system? So do note that the notebook is being run on a Ubuntu Linux operating system. So let's say that in a prior tutorial here, we needed to use the ffmpeg package, which is available on the OS of Ubuntu. So you want to copy here. Let's just paste it underneath the ytdlp. It's kind of like a prerequisite, right? So you need to enter the exclamation mark here. It's kind of like an escape character that tells Colab that you want to install, you want to use the following command as the operating system commands, right? It's exactly the same thing as how you would do if you open up your terminal line and then you enter commands for the operating system. So here we're apt get install and then the ffmpeg. So hit here or just shift enter. And now we've installed the Ubuntu package, ffmpeg, all right? Now it's available in your notebook. So you could think of this as kind of like your mini computer. You have access to the underlying resources, so you could install packages from the OS. You could also, install Python libraries that you might need for your project. Another handy thing is the secrets management here. So you'll see that I have a lot of example of API keys already in here. So why don't we have a look? Let's say that I want to create an OpenAI API key. So log into your API provider platform, whichever it may be, OpenAI, Anthropic, Assembly AI, 11 Labs. There's so many, right? So here, let's see. Click on settings and then you'll go to API keys. These are the previously created API keys that I have already done. So I'll create a new one by hovering to the right aspect, of the panel here. Click on create new secret key. I'll call this dummy API key. Don't worry, I'll delete this after the tutorial. Hover back to the secrets part here, and then let me replace this dummy key. Okay, and place it in here. toggle here, and then it'll hide mask the actual value. To activate the API key of choice, you could just toggle on the variable of your interest. You could do multiple toggles as well, right? For this example, I just toggle on the dummy key. And to actually call the dummy key into your environment of the notebook, you want to add this code snippet in there. You could either copy this into memory, or you could here to add the code cell. So we'll add the code cell here, and then we'll go back to the table of content mode. Let's see, where did it added the cell? Okay, it added right here. So I'll move this to the top. So hover here and then click on the move cell up. You could also use the the keyboard shortcut here. Okay, I'll just click on the button. We'll move it up. Pandas, sample. This load AP. All right, and I'll replace text the actual dummy key here. Name dummy underscore key. Okay, that's it. I'll also have to assign a variable to it, so I'll call it dummy API key equals to this value. Shift enter, and it'll be in memory. Now we'll be able to assign this to the API parameter of your Python library of choice. So if you're using OpenAI or if you're using Replicate, be sure to add this variable here that you just created as the value for your API parameter. Okay. So this is very convenient for storing the API key so that you don't have to copy paste the API key and then run it explicitly in the notebook, which is not safe. So you could store it in memory, and then you could toggle whenever needed. Okay, so I'll go back and delete the key here. Delete the key, revoke it. Alrighty, so I think covered a lot in this tutorial. Do note that if you want to use your notebook in your mobile phone, let me show you. Here, it's running on my iPhone. Right, so yeah, so you could definitely code this while traveling. If you're on a train, if you're on an airplane, and if you have internet access, of course, you'll be able to work on your coding projects. Make some minor edit to your notebook. It might be a bit challenging to type full-on code in there. And yeah, I hope this video was helpful to you. Please drop a comment in the comment section of what other tutorial videos that you'd like me to make. And yeah, if you reached this far, please drop a fire emoji in the comment section so that I know that you have already watched to this section. And yeah, greatly appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, the best way to learn data science is to do data science. And please enjoy the journey.